Have you ever tried introducing something to your team? You explained exactly what you're doing. Everyone nods their head. Yes, we agree. And then 3 weeks later, nobody's doing it. Because I have. And I think sometimes as leaders, we get frustrated and think, I already told you guys this. Why aren't we doing it? And I've learned that announcing a change and implementing a change are two different things. So I've implemented a lot of different things in our dental practice over the years. Some have worked really well and some have completely flopped. And while some have worked, it's only after I realized I needed to change the way that I was actually implementing them. Today, I want to talk to you about a pretty simple process that I now use when I'm trying to create a change in our office. So, when I'm introducing something new, I like to walk through 4 different steps. First, what problem are we even trying to solve, or what is the result that we're trying to create? You need to determine that, whether it's with your husband or with the team or with your leadership team. But that's the first thing that we need to figure out is what is the problem we're actually trying to solve? What is the solution that we're going to try? And this could be in kind of like a brainstorming, like we're trying to figure out the solution, or do we have a specific solution that we're presenting to the team? And then what kind of kinks or roadblocks do we see? This is an important conversation to have with other people and not just something that you're going to come up with on your own, because other people are going to bring in a different perspective. When I come to a conversation, I have a perspective of kind of more management, kind of maybe like bird's eye. I also have a perspective as a hygienist, but I miss the perspective of like chairside assistance a lot or sterilization. And so it's really important to have those various contributions and perspectives to really get an idea of what things we might come across as we're implementing different changes for the team. And then the last thing is, how are we going to track it and create accountability? This last piece is probably the most important and the thing that really moved the needle for me. So whenever possible, I like to turn the implementation period into some sort of challenge or tie it to some kind of reward or incentive. Some people call it gamification. There's been studies shown that gamifying really anything increases the success of whatever it is that you're implementing. This is something that I even use at home with my kids, but we need some way to provide feedback and to track our success. We need to know, are we actually doing this? Is it working? Are we getting better? And one of the best examples of me learning this the hard way is when we were trying to improve our patient handoffs. So we were having an issue with team members who weren't consistently walking their patients to the front and handing them off to the patient coordinators. I honestly could do an entire podcast on handoffs and why I think they're so important, but just for now, know that this was something that I really wanted to improve with our team. So during a team training, we talked about the problem. I explained why handoffs mattered, and I presented the solution, which was a walkout slip. This is something that me and the management team had developed. We discussed how it would work. We answered questions, and then we talked through the potential problems that we might face as we implement this, and then we implemented it. And at first, there were some people on the team that really used it consistently, and there were some that didn't. I reminded people here and there, and then slowly everybody stopped. By the end of the month, almost no one was using the walkout slips. And that's when I realized something. The team hadn't necessarily failed at implementing the change, but my implementation process had failed. I had done the first steps, right? Like I had talked about it with the team. We discussed the problem, presented the solution, talked through the kinks. And then I basically was like, okay, bye, go do it. And there wasn't any kind of consistent follow-up. And there definitely wasn't any kind of measurable goal. And we were lacking accountability. So the next month, we tried again. And this time, our handoffs were tied to our monthly bonus. Our goal was 95% completion in order to receive that portion of the bonus. And also, I added a part to the walkout slip where I could actually track the team member that it was tied to so that I could see who was consistently doing it and who wasn't. And what that helped me do is individual coaching. So instead of just being like, hey guys, we need to do better with our handoffs, I could actually see who was struggling and who wasn't. And I could talk to that person. What's getting in the way? Why are you forgetting? Is there something about the process that isn't working for you? Do you understand what it is that I'm asking of you? Do you understand the purpose of this? And yes, in the first weeks, it felt like a lot of micromanaging. And that's something that I kind of had to change my perspective on. Sometimes a new process requires intense management before it becomes a habit. At our morning huddle, we would report our percentage. So yesterday we were at 97, today we're at 92% for the month, so we really need to tighten this up today. Everybody knew exactly where we stood and exactly what we were working towards. We did this for about 3 months, and then something awesome happened. We didn't need it anymore. The handoff just became part of our office culture, just part of our normal workflow. And today, we don't track anybody's handoffs. We only track it if we have a new hire and we're going through that same process specifically with that new hire until the habit is established. And that's the goal. Accountability doesn't necessarily need to last forever. It needs to last long enough for the new behavior to become like the normal behavior. Now, gamifying the change, implementing the handoffs is when I really started to lean into gamification. If I'm asking my team to focus on something new, I want there to be some kind of scoreboard and some kind of reward. What's the goal? How are we doing? Can we see our progress? And when it's appropriate, what's the reward? Now, the reward doesn't have to be something huge. Sometimes it is tied to our bonus, but I don't like to change up our bonus month to month. So I usually have some kind of gamification for the entire year that we're focusing on that's tied to the bonus. And then I like to have some kind of prize when it's towards something specific. We've done various things through the year. Actually, the pink scrubs that I'm wearing right now, this was something that we gamified, a challenge that we were working towards. And it was actually part of our Invisalign challenge last year. So we had a specific goal that we were wanting to meet. And I broke it up into 3 different phases. And after each phase, we received something new as part of our uniform. So one of the phases was the pink scrubs. Another phase was matching tennis shoes. And then another phase was matching like crew neck sweatshirts that we could wear in the office. And we've also done something like we did Stanley Cups, personally Stanley Cups. We have done actually a trip. We did a trip to Chicago. We've done a trip to Denver, just kind of places that were close by. Something that's really fun with the pink scrubs too is it's actually still a part of the gamification for new hires because they want to earn their pink scrubs. We only wear pink scrubs on Wednesdays, and the rest of the week we wear black scrubs. And so this is something, new employees have to have worked there for a certain amount of time, and they have to pass off a certain amount of requirements or training in order to get their pink scrubs. And it's something that's really exciting and something that we celebrate as the team. So it really doesn't have to be necessarily about money, but sometimes it's a prize, sometimes it's recognition. It's just about creating a fun team challenge. And it's really important to give the team something measurable to work towards, and it makes the change feel so much more tangible instead of just repeating yourself over and over again. Like, remember guys, we're supposed to be doing this, we're supposed to be doing this, we're supposed to be doing this. So another example that I want to give you guys is implementing a shout out wall. So this one actually taught me a completely different lesson. At one point, I really wanted to improve the morale in our office. I felt like our team was starting to kind of like keep score and kind of like nitpicking each other and focusing on maybe what people weren't doing instead of what they were doing. And so this is how our shout out wall was born. I wanted to help the team focus more on gratitude. I wanted everyone to kind of develop more of this abundance mindset instead of keeping score. We put sticky notes out, and each team member could write shout outs or appreciation for someone and stick it on the wall. Maybe someone helped turn over their room, or maybe someone jumped in when they were running behind, or somebody just handled a difficult patient really well and they noticed it. Whatever it was, I wanted the team to start looking for the good in each other. And initially, everybody loved it. By the end of the month, I would take the sticky notes down and I would draw one from a basket, and the person who received the shout out became our employee of the month. They got a special parking spot that said Employee of the Month, and then they got $10 in cash. And it was just cute, fun, and easy. Except for after a few months, I started noticing that not everyone was participating. So I talked to the people who weren't participating and found out why. And a couple of people essentially told me, well, nobody ever writes any shout outs to me, so I don't write them out for anybody else. And my first reaction, I was kind of frustrated because I was like, that's not the point. And then I realized I was like, wait, that's not the point. And they were totally right that my system was rewarding the wrong behavior. The entire purpose of the shout out wall was not to get gratitude, it was to give gratitude. And I wanted people actively looking around the office for reasons to appreciate their coworkers. But my reward was going to the person who received the appreciation. And I accidentally created a system about like getting recognized or recognition when my actual goal was to create a culture of recognizing others. And so we changed it. Instead of drawing a shout out and rewarding the person whose name was written on it, we started rewarding the person who wrote the shout out. Now that meant that every shout out that you wrote essentially was an entry. This was really important because anytime you're gamifying it, you want it to be something that the employees can control. And when I was rewarding the person getting the shout out, then really the only way that they could control it, I guess, would be trying to go over and beyond in everything and just like hoping somebody noticed. But you can't control whether or not somebody's actually going to write the sticky note. And so when it came to rewarding the person for writing the sticky note, that is something you can control. You can look outside yourself, find something to be grateful for, and write it on the sticky note. And I also created a basket full of just random prizes, gift cards, lotions, beauty products, treats, just little fun things. And at the end of the month, I still drew out, the first person I drew out was the Employee of the Month, and they got their $10 and got their parking spots. But then I would also draw 5 additional names, and these were all people that had written the shout outs. And they got to choose something fun from the prize basket. When I first rolled out this new version, I gave everyone a challenge. I wanted everyone to write out a shout out every single workday. Find someone during the day that had helped you, some reason to say thank you, and write it on the sticky note, stick it on the wall. At the end of the month, I counted. And based on our work schedule, everyone should have written about 15 shout outs. And you want to know how many people actually did it? 3. Almost everybody else maybe wrote like 5 or 6. And so I decided to have a little bit of fun with it. And I surprised those 3 people with $100 in cash at the meeting. And those 3 got to pick from the prize basket instead of drawing people's names out. And guess what happened next month? Everyone participated in the shout out wall. It's funny how that works. And my favorite part though is this was over a year ago and we still have our shout out wall. It's still going strong. I don't track anyone's participation anymore. I don't count how many sticky notes each person writes. I don't have to stand there and remind everyone to participate. It's just become part of our culture. And it's just something that we have fun with and we look forward to every month. The sticky notes, in our office, we have lockers for the team members to keep their belongings in. And so the sticky notes at the end of the month when we draw our winners and whatnot, we put them on everybody's lockers. And so it's just kind of fun to see what team members are saying to other team members. So I think one thing that's a really important lesson that I've learned in this is when you implement something and it doesn't work, you don't immediately need to assume that my employees just won't do it. You have to ask yourself, why isn't it working? Is the process too complicated? Are we not following up? Do people understand why we're doing this? Is there a roadblock that I didn't anticipate? Maybe we're not measuring it. Or like the shout out wall, am I accidentally rewarding the exact opposite behavior that I'm trying to create? And sometimes it's not necessarily the idea that's not working, but it just needs to be tweaked. When I talk about daily tracking, follow-up, challenges, accountability, I'm not saying that you have to micromanage your team forever. The goal is to manage something closely while it's becoming a habit. And in the beginning, you may need to talk about it every single morning in huddle. You may need some kind of scoreboard. You may need individual coaching, and you may need to remind someone every single day. But eventually, if the process works, you should be able to remove some of those supports because it will just simply become, this is how we do things. That's what happened with our walkouts. That's what happened with our shout out wall and so many other things that we've implemented. And that's just really the goal when it comes to implementing any sort of change. So here's my challenge for you. If there's something that you've been asking your team to do over and over again and you're frustrated because it's not happening, I want you to stop asking, why won't they do this? And instead, I want you to ask yourself, how am I implementing this? Go back to those 4 steps. What problem are we trying to solve? What's the solution that we're implementing? What roadblocks could prevent this from working? And most importantly, how are we going to measure this? How are we going to follow up on it, create accountability, and make it fun? Create a challenge, put up the scoreboard, tie it to some kind of reward, and then celebrate the people who are doing it. Coach the people who aren't. And if you're doing all of that and you're still not getting the result that you wanted, then change the change. Leadership isn't coming up with the perfect system the first time. Sometimes leadership is being willing to say, well, that didn't really work the way that I thought it would, and let's figure out why and try it differently. Because implementing change isn't about having a great idea. It's about turning these great ideas into the way that your team actually operates.
Thank you for spending this time with us on Dental Wife Life. If today's episode encouraged you, challenged you, or made you feel a little less alone, share it with another dental wife who needs it. Make sure you subscribe, leave a review, and connect with us on social media so that we can keep the conversation going. You can find us on Instagram at The Dental Wife Life. Remember, your role matters, your voice matters, and you don't have to navigate this journey alone. We'll see you next time.